So our second topic today is a little impromptu. So it's this is a good impromptu one this time. Oh my gosh. But so anyways, this weekend I finally watched Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I had been putting it off because I got the spoilers online a long time ago. I was never sure I'd be in the right headspace, and then I saw it on Hulu this week, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. Why not? Um,
Mhm.
and I loved it so much. In a way, I'm kind of glad I got the spoiler because Charlie made so much more sense to me. Like knowing already what was going on. I'm
Mhm.
sure for most people that's why it's the type of movie you watch more than once because like when you know how it like what his big trauma is, it really changes everything. So this book and slash movie has been out for a very long time. There are going to be spoilers because we have to talk about what the twist is in order to talk
Mhm.
about it. So yeah, that was your warning, but it's on Hulu if you haven't watched it yet. And then there is the book. The book has a lot more to the trauma stuff from what it sounds like than the movie even went into.
Mhm.
So yeah, and to kind of start us off with like what the big trauma is of Perks of Being a Wallflower is the main character Charlie eventually like remembers that he was molested by his aunt. And his aunt Helen, he had spent the whole movie praising her. Like she died when he was a child. It seems like right after one of the incidences of her molesting him.
Yeah,
Either one of or the incident. I don't know if it was like an ongoing thing or not.
it's an ongoing thing in the books. Um, in the book itself, at the end, when he is talking about what happened, he
Yeah.
mentions that he remembers that it used to happen every Saturday whenever he went over to her house. I'm just going to talk about how I know about this book because I don't know how else to talk about this book. Um, I've I've definitely mentioned this book before
Yeah.
because it's always my when people ask me like, "Oh, what's your favorite book of all time?" That
Mm-hmm.
feels like an impossible question, but this is always one that I've mentioned since I read it.
Mm-hmm.
And I read it this book came out in 1999. I read it in like 2002 when
Mm-hmm.
I was a junior in high school. I read it in my modern lit class. There were some um, parents that tried to get it banned
Mm-hmm.
from us reading it actually because of some of the sort of gay scenes, which like we'll talk about what that really means, but that they didn't put into like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it obviously didn't work, but it made people like me really curious because that's all I knew about this book was
Mm-hmm.
that there were like some sort of scenes of like two boys in a relationship somehow that made people want to get it banned. I don't know how to talk about this book because the character of Charlie is literally me,
Mm-hmm.
especially me when I was in high school. Um, and when I was in high school and I read this book and I got to like the very end, I just like after I finished it, I just like sat like laid there for a while, like for hours on end and didn't know what to do because I was just what what do I do with this? Like it's a really and most incest survivors that I talk to when I
Mm-hmm.
talk about this movie and slash book, first off, to say the movie is directed by Steven Chbosky, who is the author, which is why
Mm-hmm.
it's so correct in everything. Like I've never actually seen the movie, which I
Mm-hmm.
know sounds crazy, but I could not do that. I watched like clips of the different things that I would want to see that people post online, but
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. I read the book one time
Yeah.
in 2002 and I don't even know, part of me wants to read it again now because I would
Mm-hmm.
definitely notice more things than I did back then, but it would be so hard. It would take forever for me. It would we would have to go so slow in order for me to read it because I would just cry like all the time, every single chapter. Like I started crying just like reading some of them when taking pictures from it for us to talk about it. The like yesterday because I just like don't know how else to feel about this book. Um, but at the time when I read it, I this is one of those things like how Charlie doesn't remember necessarily what happened with Helen, and he
Mhm.
talks about her as she's like this great person. It was clearly necessary for him to feel like that about her,
Yeah.
because he felt guilty for her dying.
Mhm.
And it's just a weird thing that when somebody does something awful to you, but everybody else loves them and you also love them, you don't want to be the one to like be the only one that doesn't like them. Like I did the same thing when my dad died. When my dad died, I felt really, really guilty that I didn't feel as sad
Yeah.
as like my mom and my sister, where I like beat myself up about that for many years and would outwardly talk about him as if I loved him and that I
Mhm.
missed him and things like that. And then suddenly just like completely reverse course. Um,
Yeah.
but that's very common for people to do because you just don't you don't know what to do about that, and so you just like try to hide it. But for me, when I read the book for the first time, I read it and I remember crying, which like I
Mhm.
never did back then.
Yeah.
Um and and but I did not remember the ending at
Mhm.
all. I completely blocked out the ending, and like people for years would talk about the ending all the time and like the twist at the end, and I had no idea what they meant. I knew
Yeah.
that something happened, but I didn't want to like look into it. I literally used the book as like almost like a stuffed animal. Like I brought it to college with me.
Mhm.
One of my friends I had more than one copy because
Mhm.
people for like Christmas or something one year gave me a bunch of copies of it because they knew that I liked it that much. And
Mhm.
and so I gave one of my copies to one of my high school friends when we were in college. And
Mhm.
when she was drunk, she would make jokes about how she accidentally like spilled something on it because every time she did, I would freak out and then she would like laugh.
Oh my God.
But it was just like that's how much they knew that I loved this book, that they were like her drunk self was making bad jokes about
Mhm.
ruining it because she knew it would make me upset. And so I did not remember the ending. It wasn't until 2018 when I went back to therapy and stuff and I started dealing with everything. I was listening to a podcast of a different incest survivor that
Mhm.
was talking about how they went and saw the movie having no idea what happened at the end, and
Yeah.
they were abused by their older sister, and that it triggered the hell out of them for like a couple months after that. And
Mhm.
they wished that they would have somehow put in like a clue or something in the trailers, because then he would have the thing that triggers you the most is always being surprised and not knowing that it's
Yeah.
coming. If you have an idea that it might happen, it's a lot easier to handle. And so listening to that interview was what made me finally like Google the ending and be like,
Mhm.
"Oh my God. I I like for completely forgot about that. I had
Yeah.
no idea how the book ended." Like my aunt got me the book again a couple years ago and I came home and read the last chapter again because I had no memory of what happened. Um
Mhm.
and that's what most incest victims who read this book, we like read it once and it's like a Herculean task to imagine reading it again, even though we want to,
Yeah.
because it's such a beautiful book for us to see us like literally right there.
Mhm.
Um, some of us have seen the movie and never read the book. Some of us have done the other way around, like me, where I read the book but never I can't get myself to watch the movie. The
Yeah.
ones that have seen the movie watched it one time and are never doing it again.
Mhm.
Which is why like I just watch the same like couple clips and cry over
Yeah.
them, but can't even imagine. Like I remember when the movie came out, I was like, oh, this is like the perfect cast for these different
Mhm.
roles and stuff, so I know they're gonna do a good job. And I knew that it was right just from watching like the trailers, but I was like, I can't do this. Like I can't
Yeah.
actually see this. But um yeah, I don't know. Charlie is it's hard to describe because he's exactly what we go through in a
Yeah.
character that usually people just don't know.
Yeah, so to kind of back up and explain the plot for anyone who's still watching it hasn't seen it, um, Charlie is the main character, and the movie, and I'm sure the book too, starts right before his first day of high school. He had just been in a mental health hospital, I believe, for like his best friend from middle school committed suicide. And
Mm-hmm.
so he's dreading going to high school because everybody knows he was in the hospital. Everybody doesn't really talk to him anymore. He's only talked to his family all summer. And so he goes to the first day and he befriends a group of seniors, which include a guy named Patrick, who is gay and dating a closeted football player. And then Patrick's stepsister, who is Sam. That's the one that's played by I always want to say Emma Roberts, but that's not the
Emma
right
Watson.
Emma Watson, yeah. And this was shortly after the Harry Potter era to give people like a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little weird to see her like as young as she was, and it's not Harry Potter in your brain a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. They have like other friends too. One that becomes kind of a big character is Mary Elizabeth, who Charlie finds himself in a relationship with, like, just stumbles into it in the movies. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot more to it in the book, but like um essentially we see this poor kid with like very bad social skills, very bad sense of self, like still healing from a lot of that trauma, even if just like he doesn't even have the memories of his aunt back. They're still repressed at this point. But the trauma of losing his aunt, losing his best friend, being hospitalized himself, you can tell he's just like, he doesn't know what he's doing, and
Mm-hmm.
he's lucky to like find himself with the misfit toys is what they call themselves, like the like teenagers who are all into alt stuff and don't fit in with the popular kids and stuff. So um yeah, as the story goes on, um there's a few things that happen, and it's different in the movies than in the books, where part of his trauma and how it's expressed is him not being able to advocate for himself, not being able to advocate for his own autonomy. In the movie, how that's expressed is, like I said, he falls into a relationship with a girl, Mary Elizabeth, played by Mae Whitman, who was honestly like a great casting choice for this because she's supposed to be like both a punk and a Buddhist, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you'd expect of an alt teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And so she asks him to the dance one day, and he goes with her to the Sadie Hawkins dance. She then takes him home, and you can tell he's uncomfortable from the moment she's like, I want to take you back to my house. My parents aren't there. Takes him to the couch. They start making out. She starts trying to undress. And you see it in his face that he's not into it. In the scene, her face even changes to Sam's at one point because he has a crush on the friend Sam and not
Mm-hmm.
like any feelings towards Mary Elizabeth. They get interrupted though before it goes too far because Mary Elizabeth's parents come home, and she just kind of ends the makeout session like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're my boyfriend now." And I remember thinking that part of the movie, screaming like, "Oh my gosh, say something! You don't like her like that. Say something!"
Why do nice people choose the wrong people to date?
Are we talking about anyone specific?
Well, we accept the love we think we deserve.
Can we make them know that they deserve more?
We can try.
So in the book, the difference that Shannon has talked to me about before even is he doesn't express his bodily autonomy even more so in the book, to the point where his best friend Patrick, who's gay, will kiss him sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and he just lets him. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Basically, I don't know if this is in the movie or not, but
Mhm.
Patrick has a whole storyline where he's gay, he's out at school, and he's getting bullied a lot for that.
Mhm.
And then he is dating, I guess, a player on the football team who's very popular, who is closeted. And
Yeah.
so they're doing these things together, but everything is very hidden. He doesn't tell the person he's with is like forcing him not to tell anybody what they're doing. He doesn't even want anyone to know that he's gay. And so pretty early on, Charlie is at a party with these people, and he like somehow sees Patrick with the guy, and Patrick's upset for having to like hide everything and how awful a relationship like that would be. To have to hide every single thing that you're doing, and to know that if anyone found out about it, that you would be the one that would get like the brunt of it from like the public at large, which is something that happens in the book later on too. And so Charlie is like, well, if it makes you feel better, you can kiss me. And Patrick's just kind of like, what? But he just tells him like, yeah, if it'll make you feel better, you can just kiss me. And he does throughout the book. Those are like the scenes that they considered like gay scenes that they wanted to get the book banned from my school. And I do remember in high school, everyone in my modern lit class was very confused because they're not gay. He's not gay. Charlie's not gay. He's not doing it because he's gay. They're not in a relationship together. Yeah, there is like a gay couple, but it's like a horrible closeted couple. That's not exactly a ringing sign of endorsement at the time. And so we were very confused back then that people wanted to get the book banned for a situation like this where he's doing what he thinks is the right thing. And so once I left a comment on a video clip of this movie, and I said like he is ours. Like, he is incest survivors. He is ours. You can't take him from us. And every once in a while, that comment gets like likes from people because that sort of thing, like the idea that he would do something like that, is such a normal thing. It's a completely normal thing to do when that sort of thing has happened to you already, because you don't think that what you want matters. And you want to make other people happy. And then when you think about the character of Charlie, his best friend just killed himself. His best friend died by suicide. His aunt that he felt close to in his life, for whatever reason, that's just what he thinks of her at this point. No matter what, they were like close, even if it was for an awful reason. She's dead, and he feels like it's his fault. And so, considering those two things happened to him, especially Michael, he wants to just keep his friends happy. And that is something that we all do. We just think like, yeah, I need to do whatever to keep people in my life happy because I want them to be happy. And who cares what I feel? I don't think about how I feel at all. And so I can just put what I feel aside to keep everybody else happy. And I did stuff like that when I was in high school. One of my friends would like kiss me and stuff sometimes, and I would just like let her do it. And I didn't want her to because I don't like that. I don't like kissing anybody. Just to like be super clear. And I especially didn't like it then because
that was
reasons.
a little closer to your trauma.
Yeah, and honestly, there was some of that still going on when I was in high school. And so it was very much in my life still. And so I really didn't like any of that kind of stuff at all then, and didn't think about it at all then, but I also didn't want to say something. And it's a hard thing to describe because it's literally just like this thing that is just like in you that when somebody asks or they want to do something with you, even if you don't want to do it, you just want to say yes. And I was telling Mandy, and I was talking about this with another friend of mine that's an incest survivor too, that we have to like focus and like literally focus and stop ourselves from just saying yes. And it's like things that you wouldn't think so. Like for me right now, like ever since my mom came back into my life, whenever she wants to hug me. She'll ask me if that's okay first, to the point that sometimes when she's dropping me off at home, I ask her, will you please hug me now? Because she just like doesn't think to do that because she doesn't want to do that. But she'll ask me like, can I hug you? Or is it okay that I'm like touching your back or whatever, when we're like doing something where she would be doing that sort of thing, just to be like, a mom and like comforting or whatever. And I will like literally make myself sit there for a couple seconds before saying yes or no, instead of just saying yes, because every part of me just wants to say yes. And I have to like literally like make myself actually think about it before I say yes or no. And so the best thing about Charlie, to me, that makes all of us cry when we read this book is that one thing that's hard to explain about abuse like that is how like he doesn't remember what happened to his aunt, right? Sort of like how I didn't really remember a lot of the stuff that happened with me and my dad. I remembered two things, but they were like vague enough where it wasn't super obvious what exactly was happening. They were enough to know that something weird happened, but not enough. And I could just ignore them. And that's the kind of thing that Charlie was really doing. But it's the whole thing that people say, like, oh, these memories came out of nowhere. They kind of do, and they kind of don't. Because when you look back at how you acted, it is so obvious when you actually know, like, what you're looking for. What is going on, because the things that you're doing that you don't think, like, mean anything, give away the things that were going on with you the whole time. It's just that most people don't know what those things are. And so they don't notice when people are doing that kind of stuff. And like him, like kissing Patrick because it makes him feel better, or him dating somebody that he has zero interest in. I also did that. Like, I did everything that he did. There's this guy when I was like 22 or something that worked at the same grocery store as me. People that I worked with basically pressured me into dating him. And I felt like I couldn't tell them no. I didn't want to date him. But my coworkers were basically like, they were friends with him. And like, I guess he somehow told them that he had a crush on me or something, which I literally was like, why? When they said that. And that's still my response. If somebody says something like that to me, I'm just still like, why would you do that? But they basically kept talking to me about going on a date with him or like dating him every time I would go into work. And I felt like I couldn't say no. I felt like I couldn't tell them that I didn't want to, because you feel like you can't. And so I dated this person for like 3 months of my life when I had like zero interest of ever actually dating him. I had zero feelings for him. I did not want to date him. I never want to date anybody, but I especially don't want to date a guy that I don't even know. Really. I did not want to date him at all, but I did because I felt like I had to. And you just end up in these situations where you end up doing things and you don't even know why you're doing them, because you just don't want to tell people no. This is why with people like that, with like me or like Charlie, consent is not something that we understand. And it's why a lot of incest survivors are sexually abused by more than one person, because the only reason that never happened to me again, and like you could maybe argue that my friend in high school that would like kiss me and I would let her do that and things like that, maybe you could probably call it a little bit of sexual assault or whatever, even though I didn't stop her and like was and acted like I was fine with it because I didn't know how else to do that during that time. But still, that's the closest I got after that. The only reason I never had it happen with more people is because I refused to be around other people who could do that. That's why most people do end up going through it with more than one person, because you don't want to disappoint the other person. And so you just keep saying yes because you feel like you have to make the other person happy. You're afraid of them not being happy with you. And that's like the stuff that when you think about that too much, it's because somebody abused you and you were generally terrified of what they would do to you if you didn't make them happy.
Yeah.
And that's why you act that way. But it's like all those sort of things that he does, every single thing he does, everything he does are things that we do. And it like all leads back to something. And it's why he eventually at the end of the story remembers the things that happened and is able to like immediately get help. One thing that I do know that is different from the book versus the movie in the very beginning is that there's a girl with like blonde hair that has like curly blonde hair that when he first gets to school and he's eating lunch, he like looks at her and like tries to like wave hi, but she doesn't want to like look at him, and he ends up like eating lunch by himself. That girl was dating Michael.
Oh.
And so that's why like they go more into that in like the beginning pages of the book that that like he talks about how he saw her and that but she didn't want to be around him, and he's saying like he understands why she wouldn't and things like that. But that was like their little nod to that, of people who read the books would know who she is. But yeah, that's why she didn't want to like talk to him or look at him or anything like that, because she was with Michael. She was there's a deleted scene of in the movie that I saw, actually a TikTok video yesterday of the deleted scene popping up of Michael going to him and asking him, should I ask this girl out? And Charlie like trying to give him like support and stuff. And that's that girl.
My best friend Michael, his dad was a big drinker, so he hated all that stuff. Parties too.
Well, where is Michael tonight?
Oh, he shot himself last May. Kinda wished he left a note, you know what I mean?
To talk about the difference between the book and the movie for a second, the thing that people remember usually about the book is that the entire thing is him writing letters to somebody that he just names friend.
I asked you about that, and I wasn't paying attention, but yeah, the letters are to a person who he knows turned down sex at a party.
Yeah, the very first line of the book is him saying, like, I saw you at this party. You turned down sleeping with somebody when you could have. And that's what makes him think that he's trustworthy, which is like, that's what an incest survivor would think. That if you turn down having sex with someone when you could have, then we trust you. Like, honestly, that's all it takes. We trust you like immediately because we don't think that we're in danger around you. And so the first couple paragraphs of the book is him saying that he just calls him friend, that he changed his name, and that he changed all of his friends' names because he doesn't want this person to figure out who he is. Or anything like that. But he just wants to write something to someone and just wants like his thoughts to be like somewhere like out there in the world. And so the friend person is a person. You never find out who he is or anything like that, but he is the one that like he was writing all these letters to, is just like a way to almost like let out all the thoughts in his head to a person that he knew would never figure out who he was, and so he wouldn't have to worry about them getting upset or like what they would think about the things that he was saying in these letters. Because I can't even state enough how much you think about how the things that you do affect everyone else around you all the time. When you're doing that dominates every single decision you ever make for a really long time. It still kind of does, but especially back then when you're in high school and stuff, it really, really does. And that's why I try to do the stuff that I do online, because people like this are just walking around the world. And when you're one of us, you know what we're like, and you're just like, oh my God, the idea that there's kids like this walking around the world right now and no one has any idea what's actually going on in their heads, because no one ever does when it comes to this kind of stuff. And that they're just out there now, like how Charlie is out there now. Like, these people in this friend group have no idea what's actually going on with him. They just think he's like this weird
Yeah.
kid, and they just don't have any clue of what's actually happening to him until
Yeah.
it's too late. It's so hard thinking about him during this book and movie, seeing all the things he's going through, and
Yeah.
just like wanting somebody to figure out what happened with him and his aunt for him, so that he doesn't have to be because we always have to be the one to tell everybody. I will say one thing that they changed that I thought was weird from the book to the movie, because this is something that does not happen in real life, is that at the very end of the movie, his therapist at his treatment center is the one that tells his parents that does not happen like that.
No, if anything, your therapist tells you to invite them into a session for you to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not usually a case where it's like, I'll just do the hard part for you, patient.
Or even like in the book, it's like his therapist is the one that says it, but it's during like a family session when they're all there to like talk about it for the rest of the session. That is something that happens. Like when I went to my treatment center in 2019, my sister came in for a family visit, and the plan before she came was that I would tell her that my dad raped me, because that was something that people didn't really know. Because before I went to that treatment center, I couldn't even say the word rape at all, ever. I could not say it. I couldn't even think it in my own head, much less say it out loud, which is why I refuse to not say it now. I don't care if it means that TikTok won't show anybody my videos. I fought really hard to be able to say that word without panicking. I'm not going to take it back now. But she didn't know about that. Nobody like really knew about that except for like me and like 2 other people maybe. And so, cause I couldn't even tell them because I couldn't even say it out loud. And so, that was the plan. And he definitely like teed me up for it, because of course I didn't want to tell her, but he said like, and basically like introduced it of like, what was the thing that you need to tell her. And he didn't let me like get out of not telling her, which I'm glad that he didn't, because that is something that she needed to know. Because the main thing, is that after I told her that, he talked about with me there still, about how it was necessary kind of for her to know, so that she understood like what was really going on, like why I was acting the way that I was, because they just have to know things like that. Because if you don't know that that's how bad things got, people don't understand why you're acting certain ways. And once they know, then they get it. And that was like the main idea. That's the main idea why his parents and his family found out too. I'm trying to think about the things that you asked me about in the course of the book, really, or the movie.
Well, okay, so something that I'm also left unclear about with the movie, again, to like explain the plot for people watching, the friend group that Charlie gets into has a little breakup that happens because when he's dating Mary Elizabeth, they're doing like a party, truth or dare, spin the bottle type thing, and he's told to kiss the prettiest girl, and he kisses Sam instead of his girlfriend. And so everybody freaks out, and they make him leave the party, and they don't talk to him for 2 weeks. But how he gets back kind of in the good graces of the friend group is Patrick and his closeted boyfriend have a really rough breakup because they're caught by the boyfriend's father, and he beats up the boyfriend. And so, he's coming to school the next day trying to tell everybody he got jumped. And Patrick's like, why don't you just tell everybody? Like, tell them what really happened with your dad. And it turns into the 2 ex-lovers fighting, and then the football guys all like protecting their closeted friend who they don't know is closeted, and bashing the gay kid. And so Charlie then, he like comes in and defends Patrick, but he blacks out the entire thing. It was like such a big out of character moment for the Charlie that the movie presents, where it's like, where did all this rage come from? Where did the ability to like muscle, like that much? Because he leaves the kids bloody. They look messed up.
Yeah. So this is one of those things where like when you look back at it, you can see like signs, I guess, of someone being somebody like that people might not notice. Because it's a complicated thing, because a lot of people look at that and they think like he must be just so full of rage, like so angry at the things that happen to him, but like not really. Like it's not really that, because there is some anger, obviously, but most of that anger is turned inward at yourself. You're not angry at the person for really hurting you. It takes a while for you to suddenly actually feel anger. Like I didn't feel any anger until I was like 36, and my therapist had to literally teach me how. He had to teach me how to cry too. But he literally had to teach me how, and I had to tell him like, I don't know how to do that. And he's like, I didn't think that you did. And really like sat down and taught me how to cry. And then the week later taught me how to feel angry. Because I honestly didn't know how. And so it's not necessarily that, because I know that's like where people's minds go, but it's more that, like this is like an obvious thing, but there's no other way to say it. When you're a child and you're being raped by somebody in your family that you also love, that you want them to love you, and everybody else around you loves them too, and you don't want to feel differently about them than everybody else. That's obviously a huge, like massive violation to your body and like to yourself as a person, and to just who you are as you exist as a human being. And so when you've experienced that sort of violence before, even if it's one of those things that people picture, I think that when people picture rape being violent, they picture like literal like physical violence, like people like bleeding or hitting people or giving them black eyes or whatever. But the violence of it is purely just the other person having so much control over you that you can't get away. That's really like most rapes are not loud or violent in the way that people imagine them to be. Like, what's his name? The guy from San Francisco. Chanel Miller
Alan
is his
Turner, who now goes by Alan Turner. I'm just gonna
Chanel Miller is one of those books that I want to be able to read one day without having a mental breakdown, because that's his Survivor. And that book is really well written from everything I've ever heard about it. So if you can read it, you should. But hers is one that's kind of fits the idea of what people think most rapes are like, but most of them are not like that. Most of them are quiet, but they're still really violent. And so when you're going through things like that are really violent to your body, you have like that like response, like that like fight or flight, or however you want to look at it, response of that happening to you doesn't just like go away. And so when you have that sort of violence happening to you, you know how bad it can get. Like, you know the worst that people can do to you, even if you're not like aware of knowing that is like the worst that someone can do to you, you still feel it like somewhere in your body. That, especially because a lot of us do like freeze or like fawn as like our traumatic response to that sort of thing. And so that, anyway, the whole thing with him blacking out like that is, instead of it being just like he just like blacked out because he was so enraged and had no idea what he was doing, it was like when he was a little kid, he was weekly going over to his aunt's house and she was raping him every single week, like every single weekend for however long that went on. He knows what it's like to lose total control and be violated like that. And so when he sees his friend is in danger and he feels like he has to help him, that is like the level that you're going to go to help the people in your life, to keep them safe so that they never feel like you do.
Yeah.
And you don't really know that that's what you're doing. Like, if somebody walks up to you and asks you that without going to therapy for like a million years, like I have at this point, you can't like put that into words, but that's what you're doing. Like, I used to do that. Maybe that will make how I act sometimes online make more sense to people.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, when that's the kind of violence that happens to you, when you can tell that somebody's trying to hurt you in some way or hurt somebody you care about, even if it's just like trying to manipulate you, trying to like twist your words around. It's like, I have to like do what I have to get them to back off, because I don't know how far they're going to take this.
Touch my friends again and I'll blind you.
You don't know where the line is for normal people, because your line is a very different thing and you don't know that it is. That's like the kind of the thing with Charlie, is that he's walking around the world and just thinks this way about things. He doesn't understand why people think that he's weird. He just, and that's part of the reason why I hardly ever talked about this book before, even though I would always say that it's my favorite book, is because I was scared to tell people that Charlie is so much like me that I like don't even know what to do with myself when I'm watching the scenes from the movie or like reading the parts of from the book, because he's so much like me that it feels like exposing. Like, I'll watch videos of people analyzing him and I'm like, they're analyzing me to the very like core of who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And they have absolutely no idea that they're doing that. They don't know me, but they are doing that anyway. And so it just feels terrifying to tell people that about this character, because I'm like, what if they don't like him? Like, what if they think that he's weird? Because I know some people think that he's weird, and it's just a scary thing to tell people something like that.
All their lives, all the time, just how do you stop seeing it?
Seeing what, Charlie?
There is so much pain, and I don't know how to not notice it.
What's hurting you?
No, not me. It's them. It's everyone. It never stops. Do you understand?
When you pick up on other people's emotions, because you were groomed to do that by a family member of yours, and so you just see people that are hurting for one reason or another, and you feel like it's your responsibility to help them somehow. And usually, because of how we are, if we get past the age of 18, we usually have a lot of tools that other people don't have, that where we feel like we could possibly actually help people. But it's just an overwhelming feeling seeing so many people going through a hard time and wishing that you could somehow help or make it better or something, but you know that you can't, and so you just get overwhelmed by it all and just need to take breaks sometimes, because it's just like, what do I do watching all of these people go through all these hard times? And I don't want, and it's part of the whole thing of, I know how hard it feels, that I don't want anyone to feel that way. The other thing with Charlie that he does, that I do a lot, that a lot of us do a lot, is that it's the whole this is like a bigger thing in the book, but I think that this is a thing in the movie too, because I did see one of the clips I've seen before is at the end when he's having his breakdown and the memories from his aunt, he can't get rid of them this time.
Yeah.
And he calls his sister.
Yes.
And he tells his sister, like, it's my fault that Aunt Helen died, isn't it? And she immediately tells one of her friends, like,
Call
an ambulance to my house, call the police right now, because she knows what that means. It is a thing in the book, too, that he doesn't want to, the whole reason why he starts writing those letters to an anonymous person that doesn't even know who he is that he doesn't want people in his family to worry about him, and that he's worried that if he tells them how he really feels, that they'll worry that he's bad again, that he's doing bad again. And so he writes these letters to this anonymous person because they don't know who he is, and his family will never find out these things that he's feeling or thinking at the time. But like, you know that you're a mess. Like, we're not like walking around the world like naive necessarily to that fact. We can look at other people and see that obviously other people are having an easier time because they're able to talk to each other and just do everything. Everything in life so much easier than you. And so you know that there's obviously something that with me that's different from other people that makes me different somehow. You don't really get what it is, but you know that you're doing that anyway. But you're very aware at a certain point that everybody worries about you and that everyone around you is like worried about you, and you don't want them to worry about you. And so you feel like a lot of pressure to hide when you're not doing well so that they don't find out, so that they don't start like tiptoeing around you because they're worried that you're going to do something or say something or just like struggle again. Like, for me, when I was when I was 12, so everything happened when I was 12. I just remember a time I can vaguely remember going to the zoo, with my parents. And it was like a time where they were trying to go together when my dad was stopping trying to like destroy everybody's life for a while and was trying to like get along, I guess. And we went to the zoo, and I just remember like the first time I went back there after I started going to therapy, I just remember walking in the zoo and like that feeling when you're depressed, when you're like so overly sad that you can literally like feel it, like your chest hurts because you're so depressed and sad that it feels like your body weighs way more because you can't even handle like moving around because you're just so sad. That's how I felt then when I was 12 and we were at the zoo, and I remember feeling like that when I was there, that my mom told me this later, that I sat down on like a bench and just like started crying and didn't want to get up to like walk out. And like my mom and my dad had to like literally like convince me to get up to walk out of the zoo because I just didn't want to ever get up again because I was that depressed. And after that was when they put me into therapy for a while. And so after that happened, and even before that happened, I was the one that always struggled with everything. I didn't have any friends at school. I didn't have any friends at home. My sister had friends at school. She made friends with our neighbor kids and stuff. Those people would be around me because they were friends with her, but they weren't really friends with me. There were times when we could have been, but my dad would always ruin it because whenever he would come home, I would run into my room to hide. And nobody else knew why I was doing that. And so to them, it seemed like I was just like leaving, like I was hanging out with him, and then suddenly I left to go be by myself. And so they would just think that I didn't want to hang out with them. But it was because I was running away from him. Yeah. Because I didn't want him to be around. I was afraid if I was around, that he would start screaming in front of everybody or something. And so I would just go hide by myself, to like get away from everybody else. And they didn't understand what I was doing that. And so I struggled a lot in school. I never had any real friends for a long time. And my sister did. she did better at like actual school than I did too, and so I was the one that always struggled, and you're so aware of that. And especially after I went to therapy and stuff, I knew that. And I would just like try to pretend like I was fine all the time so that my mom and sister and stuff wouldn't worry about me,
Yeah.
because I just didn't want them to worry about me. And so I would just act like I was fine and like just try to cover it up. And I was really good at doing that. Like we're really good at doing that. Like Charlie's family doesn't know how close he is to the edge, so to say, I guess, until it's literally happening,
Yeah.
because he was able to like cover it up pretty good, considering like where he was mentally
Yeah.
after that for a while. But that is like a thing that you just feel like there's like something stamped on your forehead, that like people can somehow see something up there, that like something is wrong with you, because
Yeah.
everybody reacts to you like that. They all like look at you differently, and you're like, what is it about me that is different, where everybody can tell but nobody can also know what it is, because it literally feels like you just want someone to tell you what's wrong with you, because you
Yeah.
can tell that something is, but you honestly don't know what it is.
I don't want to be a Mayview kid. Just tell me how to stop it.
Like Logan Lerman probably was a good choice because he can charm
Mm-hmm.
you even when he is being weird, even when he is socially inept and stuff. But I still feel like it's there, and I still feel like so the movie, I can see why it would be hard for someone with that trauma, and I'll give people like what I think is a good explanation of why it would be hard, which is I think they represent the flashbacks extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that they do it is you'll see like Logan Lerman walk into a room in the scene, but then it'll switch to his childhood self, and you'll get maybe like a minute of what was happening when he was a child. And so you get like this buildup of his memories of Aunt Helen, where it goes from Aunt Helen's the best. Oh, she had a really rough life, but she's the best. I miss my Aunt Helen. My Aunt Helen thought this. My Aunt Helen thought that. And then, like as he gets more involved with this friend group and even like starts experimenting, that's when he gets even more flashbacks. So someone touches his leg and he gets a flashback to Aunt Helen touching his leg.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that until you get to the very end, where Charlie's birthday is Christmas Eve, and so like his aunt died Christmas Eve getting a present, as we've said earlier. And so when it gets to be his birthday again, that's where it feels like he cannot stop the memories anymore at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was part of his break. So he did make up with the friends. What is weird to me, though, is so they've gone off to college, and it's after they go off to college that he fully realizes everything. That he, like, has to be hospitalized. His sister rescues him, as Shannon said, because she's the one who's like, he's talking crazy. Like, we gotta do something. He's gonna hurt himself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he wakes up in the hospital, and after he gets out, he does get visited by Sam and Patrick. The thing that the movie does not make clear is how much they know. Like, how much they know
Oh,
happened.
they know. I don't know that they know everything, and it is one of those things I don't remember, because this
Yeah.
is the part from the book that I don't remember. From when I read it, I reread the last chapter or so again.
Yeah.
Recently, and I reread it again yesterday. But the last chapter is him when he's in his treatment center, and he's talking about how he remembered what happened with Helen, and that it used to happen every Saturday when he would go over there, and he talks about basically being in treatment and his family finding out, and his family feeling so bad that they didn't realize that was going on all that time, but it's suddenly like making sense to them, all the things that he struggled with his whole life up until that point, and that after he leaves treatment, and it's basically about him leaving treatment, but it's purely focused just on like him leaving treatment and figuring things out in himself, and saying that he was excited to go back to school his sophomore year, and was actually excited to go and like make new friends and continue living life, for the first time ever because he went through all of this stuff and figured a lot of things out about himself. But they don't really talk about the friends in the like Sam and those people. He talks about loving them, of course, and things like that, but the focus is more on him, just him.
Yeah.
And so they don't go into as much. I get why the movie did. And it, you know, I will say that the scenes in the movie where he's saying like that he felt infinite when he was listening to music and driving around with his high school friends, those were like the only times I remember feeling happy when I was a teenager, was when I would be driving around with my high school friends in our cars listening to music like that. And and those are like the things that I still remember from back then. And even if I'm not friends with any of those people anymore, I do remember that those were the times when I did actually feel happy. And it is like a weird thing that when you struggle that much, that when you feel happy, it feels somehow bigger because of how hard you had to work to like feel that in the first place, I think. Because I don't know that most people feel that sense of like connection to like music or your friends when you're just like driving around like that. But it doesn't focus on the after effects as much of like the friends, at least. They're like, they're not mad at him anymore, but in that sort of way, like they're not really by the time you get to the end anyway. They're more confused because they don't understand, but I honestly don't know if they ever fully know. And it's one of those things, like it's up to him if he wants to tell anybody, because you don't have to. And that's like, sometimes people give you the idea like you have to tell all these people. Well, and obviously, like I casually bring it up on the internet, and so maybe I'm not the best person to talk about it, but I am okay with talking about it because I did all this stuff to deal with it all, and so I want to talk about it particularly because people feel uncomfortable just hearing it. And so we're like one of the only places on the planet that just like casually mention that, or like the kind of emotional incest you went through as just like a normal occurrence where you never have to feel weird hearing that kind of stuff, because it's normal to hear us talk about that. But most of the time people don't, and you don't have to tell anybody if you don't really want to. I guess is like the main thing. Like I always wonder what people think about me that don't really know us and only hear us say certain things. I'm like, what do they think we're talking about? when we're talking about these things, I generally am like so curious as to what they think.
Well, in the movie, they have him kind of disclose it to Sam at one point because she reveals to him that her first kiss was when she was 11 with a like one of her dad's friends, and he says, "Oh, the same thing happened to me," but he doesn't really get into it. But yeah, like we don't really know that they know. Like they visit him after he comes to the hospital at the end of the movie, and it ends with them in the tunnel again. And
if whenever somebody's going through a hard time, they can come and like just tell you stuff. Like it's not a joke. I don't say this to be like, haha, this is funny, but it's also the way that I picture it in my head when I imagine it is like, it's funny to me in this like sweet sort of way. That most of the time when I have people messaging me that just keep messaging me over time, over a couple years or something, they eventually one day tell me that they were sexually abused somehow. And it's happened enough that I'm just like, okay, this is just something that keeps happening, because it's happened like 5 or 6 times in the last 2 or so years since we've started doing this. That somebody has started saying things like that to me, and then it ends with them eventually. It doesn't end like they never talk to me again, but eventually they end up telling me that. And it's just one of those things that when you are that and people are aware that you are this thing, they feel like they can say whatever to you because they know that you can handle it. And that's, like I said before, when I was in high school, I felt like I had to hide everything from everyone because I didn't want anyone to be upset. And so the only way you can ever imagine telling somebody something like that is if you think that they can handle it. And that's part of why I'm just more honest about stuff, because I want people to know that I can. that I won't get like scared away by that kind of stuff in the way that most people do.
Yeah.
And the times when people say that, I don't act like I don't make a big deal out of it because that's something that I remember hating.
Yeah.
And so I just keep going with a conversation, like, and don't bring it up with them again unless they want to say it again for whatever reason. It just is something that I know about them now to like keep that in my mind about them for how we talk about things going forward, to like remember that about them. So I don't accidentally say something that would be upsetting for them to hear, or just even know like things, why something upsets them. Like, why does this person message me about Luke from Percy Jackson?
Yeah.
And how people have more empathy for him than for Percy, because it reminds them of how people had empathy for their abuser than for them.
Well, so to kind of like wrap this up, it's just like the movie itself is great. I definitely recommend that if you just want to like dip your toes in, because of course the book goes into heavier stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One warning for people that we haven't said already is Ezra Miller plays Patrick, and Ezra
Yeah.
Miller is a known abuser, has genuinely tortured people before. So like with the grain of salt, like keep that in mind that he's there. Patrick isn't as big of like he is a big figure, but I feel like he's bigger in the books just based off of things Shannon said.
I will
Um,
say that there are people out there that
mhm,
have made like timestamp things
mhm,
for Ezra Miller's movies, and including this one, where
yeah,
you can search and find people that have told you places that he is, so that you can bounce around
yeah,
and like skip his parts if you don't want to see any of Patrick's storylines without like it messing up what you know about Charlie. And so
yeah,
there are people out there who do things like that, so you don't have to watch him, because that's one of those reasons why I can't watch that movie even if I tried, because I can't watch him,
yeah.
and that really
I
sucks.
totally get that. And it does suck. Like this probably was way before that started happening. It doesn't make it any better. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like it does make it somewhat complicated when you think back on it. So
Mm-hmm.
I do want to give you that warning if you watch it. Like I said, it's currently on Hulu. Um, but book is also there. If we ever get the balls to read it for this podcast, it might
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Well, one thing too I wanted to say about the book is that if you are ever interested in
Mhm.
writing in any way, use this book as a reason as to why.
Yes.
Every idea I've ever had about writing a book has been based off of this book. Like, I've had ideas about writing in this sort of style where you're like writing a letter to somebody,
Hmm.
as like the way that's always like the format that I think about it, because it's not an exaggeration to say that book saved people's life
Yeah.
for a long time, especially when it was first coming out. But up to now, I'm sure there are people like me that read that. Like, I read that in high school, and I don't remember this feeling, but like feeling this, but I do remember feeling when you get to the end
Hmm.
and he goes and gets help. Part of the thing that made me so sad, where I just like blocked it all out, is that I remember sitting there knowing that I needed help,
Hmm.
knowing that I needed to go to a place like he went to and to get help, but that if I did that, my dad would try to kill me. And
Yeah.
so and it was one of those things, like, I know I need help and I want to go so bad, but I know that I can't do it. He would never let me tell
Yeah.
people, and he would know, like, Helen in this story is dead. And so he could do something like that without her stopping him. And it was such a horrible thing to feel, to just to know that I need help, and know that there's no way that I could get it right now, and to read a character getting it and wishing so bad that you could do it.
Hmm.
And so that is like a general thing about this book, that um it really helped a lot of people who felt like no one would ever understand you.
Yeah.
And so Stephen Chbosky is not the only person capable of writing a book like that.
I think that's a great note to leave it on for here. If you made it this far, remember to subscribe, like, hype, all of the things that YouTube lets you do. And we will be back with Son of Neptune next week.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.